Officially, there is a ceasefire, but behind the scenes, it has escalated again. Donald Trump has sent the next 10,000 ground troops. Iran is now closing the next sea route, and we have a new active participant in the war. And from China comes the next slap in the face for Trump. Let's look at the latest escalation. Let's go. Before we look at the newest escalation, a quick update on Russia, because they are one of the biggest winners of the war, and Putin is currently making an absolute fortune. The Russian oil-grade Urals rose by 20% today and is trading at $120 per barrel. It has even overtaken the price of Brent crude. Urals is now the most expensive oil grade. Nobody is talking anymore about the EU oil price cap. It stands at 44 euros and 10 cents and is ineffective. And just let that sink in. The EU has now issued 19 sanctions packages against Russia, and the sharpest weapon was the $44 oil price cap. Then Donald Trump came with his Iran war and completely tore the EU sanctions against Russia apart. Not only did he lift the oil sanctions against Russia himself, but Russia is now selling its oil at double the price. And the longer the Iran war lasts, the bigger the oil shortage becomes, the higher the oil price will rise. Putin is surely sitting in the Kremlin laughing at the foolish Europeans with their useless sanctions. And the extreme part is that Iran has now announced a new measure that will drive oil prices even higher and bleed the global economy even more. Iran says if the US blockade continues, they are ready to close the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Arabian Sea. Major General Ali Abduljani called the US blockade illegal and said they would no longer allow exports and imports through the route. Iran has no border with the Red Sea, but the Houthis could take over that part for them. And here you can see the area marked that Iran is now threatening to additionally close. This threat is extremely dangerous because all European trade with Asia runs through the Red Sea. We are no longer talking only about an oil blockade, but a blockade of everything. 25% of global container traffic passes through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, and if that is closed, then everything stops. Together with the closed Strait of Hormuz, it would be an economic super disaster, and currently no solution is in sight. Especially because Donald Trump now wants to escalate further and has sent the next ground troops. For me, this is pure hypocrisy. He himself said they were very close to a peace deal and that all objectives in Iran had basically been achieved. But if that is true, why is he sending more ground troops? I do not understand. The US is sending another 10,000 soldiers to the Middle East despite the ceasefire with Iran, reports Al Jazeera. Before the end of April, the US will send over 10,000 additional soldiers to the Middle East to increase pressure on Iran, according to US officials speaking to the Washington Post. The paper reported on Tuesday, citing anonymous current and former officials, that the US is relocating around 6,000 soldiers aboard the aircraft carrier Bush and accompanying ships to the region. About 4,200 more soldiers from the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group and the Marine Corps Task Force of the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit are expected to arrive by the end of the month. So let's be honest, do you not also feel a bit fooled? 4 days ago, the Americans suddenly walked out of peace negotiations and said there was no common basis for peace and no reason to continue talking. Then, yesterday, the Americans suddenly announced that in 2 to 3 days there would be a new round of negotiations. And now it became known that they are sending 10,000 more troops to the region. Sorry, but for me this is pure hypocrisy. It looks more and more as if the Americans are only trying to buy time with peace talks until they have refilled ammunition stocks, moved more troops into the region, and then want to start round 2 of the war. They are deceiving the Iranians for the 3rd time. The US is using the ceasefire to replenish weapon stockpiles for Israel and its bases in the Gulf states. There you have it. Even a 5-year-old can see that the ceasefire and peace negotiations are only an alibi to prepare for the second round of the war. And do you know what is so striking? Foreign Minister Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, is in China today visiting Xi Jinping, and there he announced that another way has been found to bypass the US blockade. Trump announced that the US wants to close the Strait of Hormuz, cutting Iran and China off from energy and fuel. Today, Lavrov said from China that Russia can easily cover all of China's energy needs. We are ready to meet all the energy needs of Iran and China that could be affected by the blockade of Hormuz. And here you can see a map of Iran with the Caspian Sea in the north and Russia directly behind it. So if the Americans no longer allow Iranian oil to leave through the Strait of Hormuz, Iran could sell its oil across the Caspian Sea to Russia, for example for $100 per barrel, and Russia could then sell it for $120 to other countries such as China. Unlike Gulf states such as Qatar, Bahrain, or Kuwait, Iran has a plan B with the Caspian Sea, and Donald Trump can do absolutely nothing about it. If Trump is really trying to play for time with this blockade, he will lose. In the medium and long term, Iran, Russia, and China will win. And do not forget, in November there are the midterm elections in America, so Donald Trump needs a solution by July at the latest. But so far, no solution is in sight, and it looks more like a second round of war that will last forever. And the striking part is that Trump has now received the next slap in the face directly from China. Trump had posted this morning on Truth Social, "China is very happy that I am permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. I am doing it for them and for the world. The situation will never happen again. They have agreed to stop delivering weapons to Iran. President Xi will warmly embrace me when I arrive there in a few weeks. We are working smartly and very well together." Okay, so China agreed to stop supplying weapons to Iran. The only problem is that China responded shortly afterward and claimed the exact opposite. What a slap in the face for Donald Trump. Breaking news: China rebukes Donald Trump. I would like to put an end to the online rumors that China agreed with the United States not to deliver weapons to Iran. Let me clarify. Such communication never took place. China neither said it would deliver weapons to Iran, nor denied it. Our security agreements and defense cooperation are sovereign matters for China alone to decide. No foreign country has the right to interfere in internal affairs. Guanakun, spokesman of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Bam! What a huge slap. I mean, how many lies from Donald Trump have now been exposed? I have already lost count. But one thing should now be clear to everyone. Nobody can take Donald Trump seriously anymore. With every passing day, he only makes himself more ridiculous. And to finish, I want to show you a video from the American TV station CNN of how Iran is making its supposedly destroyed missile launchers operational again. Look here, and afterward I will translate. CNN said that earth-moving equipment is digging out missile launchers trapped underground during the ceasefire. Front-end loaders can be seen clearing rubble from blocked tunnels. They also noted that the latest U.S. intelligence assessment found that about half of Iran's missile launchers were still intact after a month of fighting. That is really too good. Iran is using the ceasefire to uncover destroyed underground bases again and dig out its missile launchers. And did you hear the wording of the CNN presenters? I laughed so hard. She said, "Trump says this and that, but the reality is," and then said it carefully, instead of directly saying Trump is talking nonsense. But everyone knows exactly what is going on here. And one thing I almost forgot, which I want to mention at the end. Hamas firmly rejects the disarmament plan that it had already agreed to as part of the peace agreement, and is preventing a lasting peace for Palestinians in Gaza. And if Hamas now cancels the peace deal it made with the Americans, then that means it also wants to re-enter the war and fight again. That gives us the next war participant. But okay, let's first wait for next weekend, because you know Trump always starts his wars on weekends after the stock market closes, and now he has 10,000 additional ground troops on site. So what do you think? Will we see Donald Trump's ground offensive this weekend, or will he wait another week? Write it in the comments under the video.